Hey wrestling fans, it's Shawn from the Scumbags of Wrestling. Have you checked out our latest t-shirt design? It's inspired by our friends over at London Comic Con. Nigel Lewis of NCL Studios came up with this amazing design of a comic book cover. It features 22 stars of the Ontario independent wrestling scene, including Cody Deaner, Jody Threat, Casey Spinelli, Tyson Dukes, Brent Banks, Tarek, Sebastian Suave, Halal Beefcake, graduates of the Tyson Dukes Wrestle Factory, and many more. You can get your t-shirt for just $30 or buy the poster for $15. Proceeds from this sale are going to go to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto on behalf of Steven's wrestling journey. Steven's an 8-year-old fighting Chiari malformation, and they're searching for a cure. You can contact me either through our Facebook page, Scumbags of Wrestling, or email me at scumbagsofwrestling@gmail.com. Get yourself a great t-shirt with an amazing design and help a wonderful cause at the same time. So contact me today and get your shirt or poster.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is episode number 26 of TNT, the Thursday Night Throwdown. Myself, Chris Maloney, London, Ontario. It is scorching here, freaking humid as anything at all. Shawn Bates, Scumbags of Wrestling, alongside with us as well. Shawn, how you doing? Rocking the retro shirt, I see.
Yeah, I've been doing okay. Wife and I took this week off, so we've actually hit the beach a couple times, drive-in theater a couple times. So yeah, it's just been a relaxing week away from the craziness of COVID and supporting people with disabilities at work.
So it is an interesting episode because we are kind of doing a dual show almost. So you'll see the first half being TNT Thursday Night Throwdown episode number 26. Second part of the show is going to be Fantasy Warfare Tournament, the final four. So 4 names left in the tournament. We're going to go roundtable style to get down to the final one. Crown himself champion as the greatest world champion ever. It's funny. I'll say this. So the CWN website, I've been uploading content there and providing links to some of the stuff that we've done. I found all of the 13 episodes we've ever done of the Sharpshooter podcast. I tell you this, we have gotten better. So we don't suck as bad as we used to. You've transcended quite well. Me in that beginning episode, holy crap! I mean, it's hard to believe I didn't quit almost right away. So, in saying that, I'm going to bring on our guests tonight. One of them probably is one of the good reasons why I should quit this show, and that's Mr. Steven O'Neil of Toronto.
Don't blame me. You made me a co-host here. Don't blame me.
Yeah, it's because you kept complaining, dude. It's like, make me a co-host. So I make you a co-host. And what's that term that you keep using with regards to your juice? Hate juice?
Oh, my hate juice. Yeah,
apparently only on Thursday nights. So that is great there. So we're talking before the show had actually started. Maybe we'll try to get Moss to sponsors eventually. So somebody new to the show who's got his own podcast himself. That is Mr. Ryan Knight of the Knights of the Squared Circle. I've got to make sure I say that slowly because I want to say Knights of Columbus, but that is not accurate. So I'm going to bring on Ryan Knight. He's got his own show. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
Oh, not too bad, guys. How you guys all doing?
Good. How's the where are you actually from?
Originally, I'm from Orillia, Ontario, but currently I'm living in Stratford, so not too far from you guys.
So how's the weather up there in Stratford?
Oh, just as scorching, man. Just as scorching.
Now, Stratford's...
Crazy enough, I'm still wearing a toque. I don't know how I'm pulling that off, but...
Yeah, Stratford's Beavertown, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
All right, and last but not least, a guest of the show who's been on quite a few times before, Mr. Clarence Dusome there of Midwestern Wrestling. You can see the banner being rocked in the background there. Clarence, how you doing?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing?
How was the back?
Oh, getting by day slowly, but it's healing up pretty good.
All right, guys. So, like I said, we're going to get into some wrestling news first, and then we're going to transition into, like I said, Fantasy Warfare Tournament. First and foremost, though, AEW 715, NXT 759. Bigger graphics than that, and you can see the graphic in the background of Keith Lee actually winning the double championship there, was the 18-49 demo. That was AEW 7th place, NXT's 24th place. So, huge difference between the two. Night 2 of FyterFest saw Jericho versus OC in the main event. A great 8-man tag team match, as well as the FTW Championship presented by Taz to Brian Cage. From there, we went over to NXT, where Keith Lee became new champion by defeating Adam Cole. Candice LeRae versus Mia Yim started off in a street fight. That was pretty good. Johnny Gargano took on Isaiah Scott, known as Swerve. But guys... I'll just do roundtable style. We'll start with Shawn and then go around. Shawn, highlights of AEW if you've seen it. Highlights of NXT if you've seen it. I was watching both. I had one on the tablet, one on the big on the TV there. I didn't mind either show. Keith Lee, there were stories about whether or not his win, whether or not it had been a double tape. I don't know if that was actually the case. Keith Lee did win. Celebration from the pictures you could actually see. It did take place a couple of weeks ago, but. Shawn, your thoughts on AEW versus NXT this week and any of the highlights that stood out for you?
Yeah, I just actually finished watching it before getting on here. Private Party, still really rough to try and watch, even with Matt Hardy doing the Michael Hayes role that he had when Michael Hayes was with the Hardy Boys. Just really rough. They keep on telegraphing their spots instead of having it flow really good. I didn't mind the tag team, the 8-man tag match, and I also enjoyed the main event with Jericho and Cassidy, though with the size of Cassidy, Jericho looks huge compared to him, and that's kind of awkward to see Jericho be the bigger guy. Over in NXT, definitely like the finish of the title match, title for title. 403 days of Adam Cole being the champion is gone. It would have probably been bigger if they were in front of a crowd, but it is what it is. And decent week. WWE obviously planned for the people to watch the main event as opposed to AEW trying to do a whole show.
So, Steven, what about your thoughts on what you saw as well? Steven, I'll ask you this as well. What did they do with Keith Lee? Did they keep him with both belts the same way they're doing with Naito and New Japan? Or did they separate them in tournament style?
I think it's going to be a tournament for the North American Heavyweight Championship. It's the only thing that I wouldn't want to keep him a double champ. You can get away with it for a little bit, but I think this is a chance for them to put the North American title on someone else, make them a star. I think NXT had the better show. Best part of AEW was 7:59 and 10:01. It was horrible. It was sponsored by the color green all night. It was I could not watch. The 8-man tag was good. No, I didn't see a point of the 8-man tag. I would have much rather seen 2 tag matches, but I was not a fan of AEW.
But you saw the finish of AEW in the 8-man tag team match, right?
Yes.
So are you surprised at Lucha Brothers going over?
Yeah, very much so. I don't understand. Why not put FTR over? Like, they're not doing anything with Butcher and Blade. They could have taken the loss and it wouldn't have made a big difference.
Yeah, very true. Ryan, I'm going to put it to you. I'm going to ask you this question as well. What do they do with Adam Cole at this point? You think he's going to re-sign, or do you think he's done?
I still think he's going to re-sign at this point and go up to the main roster. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't, outside of, I know his wife is obviously with AEW currently, but I mean, Adam Cole's, they put so much into this guy. They built so much around him that I can't see him leaving WWE at this point. So,
now, did you see either show last night?
I watched AEW last night, but I thought the show was phenomenal overall. I mean, the main event didn't live up to what Jericho was hyping it up to be. I mean, saying it's one of his best matches of his career. I think it was a great match. I don't think it was one of the best of his career by any stretch of the imagination. But going back to how they said they double taped the NXT main event, I think that might have been just a rumor put out from WWE to try and kill that spoiler. Realistically, I can't see them going to the work of double taping that with the amount of, obviously, the cleanup you have to do with that confetti, all that kind of stuff. It's just too much.
Yeah, and again, how do you take away that moment from Keith Lee? You know, it was a little bit different with Velveteen Dream. But Clarence, let me ask you this: did you watch either show last night?
No, I watched some snippets of NXT. I didn't watch any AEW.
Okay, so let me ask you this as a promoter, because there are a lot of people that piss on Orange Cassidy. Have you? What are your thoughts on the guy?
I'm not a big fan of the hands in the pocket.
Thank you.
I just how, like, I get it. It's a gimmick. It's an attraction. People want to see how much he can get away with having his hands in his pockets. But at the end of the day, a right hook to the face kind of negates hands in your pockets.
Very true.
I mean,
right.
I kind of feel, sorry to cut you off there, I kind of feel with the Orange Cassidy gimmick, it's one of those things that we now have to accept that it's over. Like, no matter if you hate it, you have to accept that it's now over. I was somebody who couldn't stand Orange Cassidy's gimmick, but I can't deny how popular it's gotten and how incredible the guy actually is when he's putting on a good match, right? So
even with his hands in his pockets, he can still pull off some pretty crazy shit.
No, exactly.
But I mean, it just doesn't look right, I guess.
You know, he's the equivalent basically to us here in Ontario with Psycho Mike Rollins. We saw them in Toronto against each other, which mind-blowing to see them try to contrast their comedy going on. But imagine Psycho Mike on a main roster like AEW or WWE. You know, it's Orange Cassidy.
For those listening on audio, Steven's frantically shaking his head no. Steven, were you at that show at Orange Cassidy here in London with Seb and who's it, Cody Deaner?
No, I got my money back. I wouldn't see it.
Wow. So you were kind of upset about Sean Spears not being here.
No, I just wouldn't see horseshit like that. I will not watch him put his hands in his pocket. I will give him that he can wrestle when his hands aren't in the pocket, and he proved that yesterday. But the stupid ass, shitty looking kicks to the shin.
I agree. And the fact that every fucking legend has to sell that for him too is what kills me. Like, that absolutely kills me.
Yeah,
the guy's super talented. I personally hate the gimmick, but I mean, as much as it doesn't do anything for us, it makes a lot of money for AEW at this point. So
and for him.
And for him, yeah.
You need little gimmicks like just putting your hands in your pocket. Like that's people. It takes your eyes to that talent. If he was just wrestling like normal with nothing out of the box, he probably wouldn't be there.
All right, guys, we go from one gimmick to another before we touch base on New Japan Pro Wrestling. So next week, AEW Fight for the Fallen 2020 featuring Mox taking on Brian Cage. When I say gimmick, I'm talking about the FTW Championship being back. Now, I was listening to the podcast earlier on, and they're kind of confused on what they're going to do with it. And Steven, I'll say this, it was Meltzer who I was listening to. But the fact is, what do you do with that match next week? Is it one of those things where all of a sudden Brian Cage defeats Jon Moxley, wins the belt, carries both belts? Is it one of those things where all of a sudden he denounces the AEW Championship, carries around the FTW Championship, like it's the world title of AEW now? Or do you have Mox basically just say, hey, I'm going to kill Brian Cage and put this FTW title to rest? I mean, if you guys are booking, and Steven, I'll start with you because I'm going to get you hyped up. Did you watch AEW Dark this week?
No.
Okay, so you missed your favorite Nakazawa. But what are your thoughts on the FTW title?
I don't like that Taz hyped it up as like this big announcement, and it was that. I was like, well, this isn't going to change the landscape of professional wrestling. What are you on Impact making these big like promises? But like, I assume we're not going to get a clean finish. I bet you it's a double disqualification. They've got to set something up for something else. To me, if there's a clean finish, I'd assume Moxley's winning it, but
all right,
again, too early again.
Ryan, thoughts on the upcoming match next week as well as the FTW title coming back?
I mean, there's no way it's going to be a clean finish. I think they brought back that title just so that way they go with the dirty finish where Ambrose can keep this belt, and then Brian Cage still gets to have a championship moving forward and still gets to build him as a threat. So I love bringing back the FTW belt, but I agree with Steven that the way they brought it back, that announcement was way too much for what it was. But I'm excited to see what they do with it, but no way it's a clean finish. No way.
Clarence, were you a fan of the original ECW back in the day?
Big time.
So what do you think of the FTW title coming back?
I hate it. It's like the $1 million champion. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make anybody's character and gimmick over. Like Brian Cage is huge. Taz is a good mouthpiece. Why do you need a belt like that? Especially, I think it's insensitive in the day and age that we're living in to bring out a title like that.
Sean, do you want to? Yeah, Sean, what are your thoughts, and do you want to answer the question there by Alan Kahn?
Yeah, the title is a non-sanctioned belt. I'm actually surprised they're even going to be able to use it, considering WWE owns all of the ECW intellectual properties. Is the FTW title not part of that?
No,
and if it's not, then great. To Taz's, I guess, detriment or credit, being able to use that and use it as a prop. And it's the exact same way that he introduced it for ECW, where I would think Shane Douglas could not defend the title. And so he brought out the FTW belt to say, I'm the uncrowned champion. He's doing the exact same thing with Brian Cage. But, that's 23 years ago. Like, that's the biggest problem I have with AEW is they're trying to relive the past of different organizations or Dusty's past instead of forging their own path and creating their own legacy. They're trying to live off other people's. The title means nothing. It's just a prop, like Clarence said. It's the $1 million title just in FTW.
But I want to know whose mind was thinking with the pandemic, with Black Lives Matter, with everything going on. Why bring in a title that represents fuck the world? Why? Who signed off on that?
That is interesting because when you actually look at the plates on one of the plates on that title, it's the middle finger sticking up. So it's very interesting. I agree with you. Very interesting by AEW to bring that back right now. But I mean, everybody else seems to be doing it, especially Impact Wrestling with the TNA Heavyweight Championship being defended on the next pay-per-view. So it'll be interesting. Alan, with regards to the ECW assets, that wasn't part of it. So apparently, backstory is Taz had an idea. It was his intellectual property. Heyman said go with it on air. So that's what happened. And then basically when WWE bought ECW, that wasn't part of it. So Taz essentially has held on to the title for about 20 years now, and essentially AEW is taking advantage of the situation. So
Taz owns the intellectual property to that.
Taz created, conceived, and also owns the copyrights to the title and the design.
All right, so last question on AEW. I put out a Twitter poll. Who would you rather see break out as a singles competitor right now in AEW? So the three names I mentioned, Kenny Omega, Pentagon Jr., or Scorpio Sky. Just quick answers, guys.
Ryan?
That was quick.
Me, Scorpio Sky. Not too hard. Like, Kenny Omega's already had enough pushes in his career. I think he's great just to build guys up. Scorpio Sky is the guy I want to see at the forefront.
All right, Clarence, Kenny Omega, Pentagon Jr., Scorpio Sky. Who would you rather see as a singles competitor right now?
Scorpio Sky. I agree. Kenny Omega's, he's already big. Why build him up any more than you have to?
Shawn, how about you?
Yeah, I would agree with Scorpio Sky as well. Unfortunately, what we've seen of Omega in AEW is tarnishing his legend that he knows. He was known as before signing up, and he's regressed instead of progressed. And it would be a whole 180 turn if AEW were to release or unleash the cleaner.
All right, Steven.
Oh, Scorpio Sky. They've ruined Pentagon and Kenny Omega in AEW. They went from two superstars to two people I could care less if they were on the card.
All right, fair enough. All right, New Japan Cup coming up this coming weekend. The big news about that, besides the finals, is the fact is 1/3 arena capacity, which is approximately 3,600 people in attendance over there in Japan. That's both shows. So New Japan Cup 2020, the finals, as well as New Japan Dominion in Osaka-Jo Hall. So New Japan Cup, which is going to take place Saturday, July 11th at 4 a.m. our time. Okada versus Evil in the finals, and then a lot of multi-man matches as well. And then from there, we go into Dominion in Osaka-Jo Hall, so Sunday, July 12th, 2 a.m. Eastern, if you're awake. Naito versus Okada or Evil, Never Openweight Championship match. Shingo Takagi versus Sho. IWGP Tag Titles, Golden Ace, that's Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kota Ibushi, taking on the Dangerous Tekkers, which is Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi. Coming up this Friday, New Japan Lions Break Collision Episode 2, taking place tomorrow night, 10 p.m., New Japan World. TJP versus Danny Limelight. Guys, just start with you there, Shawn. What are your thoughts? Who's going to take it, Okada or Evil? And what are you looking forward to the most this coming weekend?
I think Okada will end up retaining. I don't think they're ready to push Evil or switch any titles.
So you think Okada's going to win and then basically Naito's going to end up beating Okada?
Yeah, probably.
All right, Steven?
Okada. I'm excited to see fans back in wrestling.
So was Okada going all the way, though?
Yes.
So he's going to beat Naito?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think they're building to it. It only makes sense. But I'm honestly most excited to see how it's going to look with fans. We haven't seen fans in wrestling in, 5 months?
Well, we've seen quote-unquote fans, but not 3,600 in attendance over there in the Osaka-Jo Hall. Yeah. Ryan, do you follow New Japan? How much?
I was just about to say, I haven't been keeping up recently. I used to about a year ago, but I'd kind of fallen off. But just hearing that there's going to be fans again, that's extremely exciting. Whereabouts are they holding the show?
So Osaka-Jo Hall in Osaka, Japan. So capacity-wise, you're looking about 13,000 people, but limited capacity, 130 the arena. I was reading up on New Japan today. Apparently, what they're doing is a couple separate entrances. So it's going to be delayed getting in there. So basically, you're going to get in, be directed to your seat. The one weird thing that was mentioned is they do not want you cheering as a fan. So basically, you go and enjoy the action, sit there silently. I guess the cheering, they're worried about, saliva, droplets, everything else, COVID-19. Of course, face mask policy, sanitizers, everything in effect, but it's going to be interesting. 3,600 fans potentially watching Okada versus Naito for the double championship over there in Japan after Stephen Wett had said, we haven't seen anything like this since March. So now you said you haven't watched it religiously in about a year, but the fact is you've seen Okada versus Naito. Who do you think is going to win if it comes down to that?
I mean, I've always got to go with Okada. Okada's been one of the main reasons I started watching New Japan. His ability is incredible. Not to discredit Naito by any means, but it's got to be Okada in my opinion.
All right, Clarence, New Japan, how much do you follow it?
I understood about 4 words that you guys said in general, so.
Okay, so I'll get your thoughts as a promoter then. 3,600 people in attendance for this, first time in a while. What are you, as a promoter, maybe getting excited that it might travel over here sometime soon?
Excited as a fan, yeah. As a promoter, it scares the hell out of you because you don't know what you can do and what you can't do. And, I mean, you're not allowed to cheer.
No cheering moistly.
Yeah, so it's just going to sound exactly like a regular show that we're watching now.
But they're going to make money.
Yeah, they're going to make money. And then, I mean, obviously I'm thinking merch and stuff is going to be available as well. Last thing I'm going to do, guys, just I'll announce this. So UFC 251 taking place. Usman versus Masvidal taking place this coming Saturday, July 11th. Pay-per-view UFC Fight Island's taking place. It's interesting. Dana White, when he started doing this, he was thinking about doing this, and it was some kind of small island reserve, whatever the case may be, off the California coast, and people thought he was nuts. Now he's actually put this together, and the fact is, Usman versus Masvidal wasn't the original match that was going to take place, main event style. So Masvidal comes in. If you guys don't know who Masvidal is, the fact is he owns the BMF championship, so the baddest motherfucker championship. When it comes down to that, it's basically, we're talking about titles that aren't defended, so to speak. It was a title put up, I think, between a fight between him and Nate Diaz. Rock presented that title. He became the baddest motherfucker in the world. So basically, 3-4 days notice, he steps up, gets COVID tested. Now he's on his way over to Abu Dhabi. Like I said, Fight Island. Now, Shawn, I know you're not huge into MMA. Steven, I'm not sure if you know too much about it. Clarence was, I think, shouting out to Yahoo as I was announcing that. But between Clarence and Ryan, what are your thoughts on UFC 251 taking place this weekend, as well as Masvidal filling in for Burns there?
Fight Island.
Sorry, go ahead.
Fight Island. He was, when he announced that, he was just a really bad meme. And he spent a shit ton of everybody else's money. And yeah, you could put Ken Shamrock in there for the main event. It's on Fight Island. I'm jacked up.
Yeah, for me, it's I'm pumped to see Fight Island. I can't believe it's actually real. That's unbelievable to me. In terms of Masvidal's fight, the fact that he stepped up with 6-7 days notice, something like that means he's the baddest motherfucker in my opinion. I'm very curious to see this fight.
If he wins.
Are we looking at?
If he wins, yeah, good point. If he wins,
are we looking at new champ or still champ though?
Still champ.
I mean, I gotta give it to Masvidal personally. I think it's going to be one of those. I think with 7 days. In my opinion, UFC is very much an entertainment-based business as well. Not to say that it'd be a rigged fight by any means, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Masvidal go over. There's a reason he was picked to go in with 6-7 days notice.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Usman, for you guys that aren't familiar with MMA, is to me, anyways, a cross between almost like a Conor McGregor as well as Silva. No, who was it? Anderson Silva. Yes, the Spider. Back in the day, he's got that build the same way that the Spider did, but the fact is he's got that kind of confidence, that arrogance, almost like Conor McGregor does. So again, I'm still catching up on MMA, but this excites me, so that's what I'll be doing on Saturday night, is watching this. So we'll do some plugs before we get into fantasy warfare here. We got Ryan Knight at Knights of a Squared Circle. You can see his contact information below: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email address Ryan Knight at knightsofthesquaredcircle.com. Ryan, let's get some background info. How long have you been a wrestling fan, and why the podcast? What inspired you to do that?
So I've been a wrestling fan since I was a kid. I remember playing the WWF Raw on the PlayStation 1 with my friend growing up religiously. So, long-time wrestling fan. I got into it when I went to see Smash Wrestling put on a show in Dresden last year it was. And I ran into an old buddy of mine that I used to host a radio show with, and he was working on doing a new internet platform, and I was doing interviews with different independent stars just for, something to do and trying to get back into podcasting. He opened up a platform for me to put out a show, and since then, we've just been rocking. It's been a little over a year now, and yeah, it's been a great time.
And you've got an amazing studio setup. I've seen some of the pictures that you got the backdrop behind you with the nice logo and the Funkos there. The one thing I'm absolutely curious about is the fact is I think now you're engaged. You got a fiance, right? There is one picture that you guys holding a championship belt between you. If I had done that with my wife now, my fiance back then, she would have laughed at me and said, "What the hell?" Is she a wrestling fan as well, or is it just?
She is. So actually, part of the way we met was we worked in stores that were right beside each other in the mall. So I had the John Cena theme song playing over the speaker after we closed one night. And I can hear her. She looks in and she goes, "Is that the fucking John Cena music?" And I'm like, okay, well, I definitely have to pursue her.
And the rest is history, eh?
And the rest is history, yeah.
All right, very good. And then from Ryan, we'll shoot over to Clarence here. Clarence, Midwestern Wrestling, hashtags down below, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Facebook, the address is kind of long, so just search Midwestern Wrestling. But Clarence, anything new as far as the independent circuit goes?
Not anything with Midwestern Wrestling. I've been meaning to sit down and have a video chat with Seth from Smash and a couple of the other guys. Can't really do a whole lot right at the moment, except kind of sit here and look pretty. But right now, there's no real big changes. We're just getting into, I mean, our area here is going to be mandated to wear masks. Some of the other areas around here already are. So I mean, 2020 is kind of a mask and hand sanitizing year, and no wrestling.
So I get a question for you. I might have asked it on last time I was talking to you, but so I was talking to not a promoter, but one of the guys out in Alberta not too long ago, and they're limited to indoor attendance of 100 fans. Is that something that you guys would think about doing as long as you had the social distancing aspect in between?
I mean, as a fan, I wouldn't want to go to somewhere that's a quarter sold in. Like, it just doesn't. You might as well have 20 people there. It doesn't look, as a promoter, it doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel packed like our first show. Like, it just doesn't give off the same look. The talent may not be into it as much as they were, just because there's 100 people.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, like, as you personally, it's either basically full out or nothing, eh?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you put your foot down on the gas and you go 100 miles an hour and you don't slow down.
Yeah, I completely agree and disagree all at the same time.
We can get back to something similar to that.
Well, it's going to be tough, too, for some of the wrestlers to come in from the States.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they can even make it back up here this year.
Yeah.
Well, even with the local talents that are around, you try and put only 100 people in there. How are you going to be able to have a building and them have the talent paid for? You're going to have to initially, I guess, jack up prices, and who's going to want to be there for that? Like you said, Clarence, keep it all or nothing, and the prices can be low. Everybody comes back, go big, go home, and everybody's satisfied paying normal prices and getting the same entertainment.
And I've never understood the whole, like, so we can have 100 people. Does that include the 40 people that we have working the concessions and the merch and then the talent and the bartender? Like, does that include everybody?
Yeah, like half your capacity at that point is your crew.
Yeah. So how do you, and then if the cameramen come, how do they stay 6 feet apart when there's only a 6 foot gap between the ring and the guard ring? Like, it just, logistics wise, it's not even worth the headache for 100 people.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a wait and see, and as a wrestling fan, I'm impatient as hell. But from your promoter's standpoint, I can completely understand and agree. And it's one of those things. It's like, it's exactly what you said. If you have 100 people that are allowed in attendance, and all of a sudden, what do you do as far as your ring crew goes, or your sound people, or your talent themselves? You know what I mean? It limits you to about 60 people. And how do you make gate just off of those 60 people? So
I would like to do like an arena where you can have 4,000 people, and then shrink it down so that we can still have the normal 400 or 500 people. And then it has to look full on camera as well.
Yeah, so a lot of different avenues and stuff still to work out, but anyways, it's just a matter of time before Ontario Independent Wrestling is back. But guys, we're going to get into some Fantasy Warfare Tournament Greatest World Champions Final Four right now. Just for anybody who hasn't seen it on YouTube or has only seen one of the or two of the episodes, what I'm going to do right now, it's come down to like this. So we've started with 64 guys. It is broken down now into a Final Four. So every single week for 4 weeks straight, we did 4 separate brackets. So north bracket, south bracket, east bracket, and west bracket. West was on YouTube yesterday, and then we finally finished that. And so now we're down to the final 4. Shawn put together these cool videos. So we're going to take a small break right now, just so I'm able to show the video of who was actually in the 64, and then we'll come back and then we'll do roundtable style to finally decide the winner. So here we go, guys. So there we go, guys. 64 of the greatest world champions in pro wrestling history. I'm just going to bring up the share screen here. Shawn, while I'm doing this, why don't you fill us in on the whole concept of it, how we got down to it, and your thoughts on the tournament as a whole?
Yeah, so as you just said, we thought of it normally our regular show is 16 contenders for whatever the topic is. You couldn't really do that with this one. So you thought about 32. I said, let's go big, go home, 64, 4 weeks worth of it. And as you see in the background, we basically have the Ayatollah Rock and Rolla, the GOAT, as people say, the first ever AEW champion who beat Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock in one night, taking on 16-time champion Ric Flair. And the other side, we got the best there is, the best there was, best there ever will be, Canada's own Bret the Hitman Hart, taking on Stone Cold Steve Austin, the biggest box office and merchandise seller of the Attitude Era. So all 4 of these guys are huge and got their different accolades and deserving to be in this Final Four. It's going to be a tough one to narrow down, I think, between the 5.
I was going to say, you didn't make this easy at all for us here.
Hey, you should have been in part of the 64. That was even harder to get down to these ones. But basically, yeah, we looked at their resumes of where they got titles from, how their impact of holding those belts were, and that's how they got sort of weeded out. Some surprising eliminations in the first rounds. Had draws gone differently, we could have had a different Final Four, but this is how it shook out.
Yeah, it's been fun because you kind of get to be a small wrestling fan again. Just thinking back to a lot of these legends as well as the careers, and and then all of a sudden when you go on Wikipedia, like Steven had done probably like every single episode, you realize, holy crap, how many championships they had actually won. But then all of a sudden you start breaking it down. It's like you have a guy like Jerry Lawler. Most of the championships were that one territory. You know what I mean? So some interesting debates. But again, we're down to Final Four. So Jericho versus Ric Flair, Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on Bret the Hitman Hart. 2 Canadians versus 2 Americans. So it's going to be interesting. So Shawn had done a little bit of the intro, so I'm going to throw things off a little bit. Steve, I'm going to put you on the spot first, which means Shawn, you could be the deciding vote. So Steven, you're up. We got Chris Jericho, Ric Flair. Who takes it?
I've got Ric Flair. You can't deny would be on the top, your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling. He's a 16-time world heavyweight champion. He's won championships in the NWA, Jim Crockett, WWE. He's won them everywhere. He beats Chris Jericho. You can't contend against Ric Flair's resume.
All right, very good. Ryan?
I mean, Chris Jericho's been able to pull off 2 cruises himself. I mean, he's got a whole list of accolades, but I can't be biased in this one. I have to agree. It's Ric Flair. There's no way it's not Ric Flair. We're talking the greatest world champion of all time. It's definitely Ric Flair. All
right, so go over to Mr. Maple Leaf Wrestling, Clarence. Who's your pick in this one?
Ric Flair, all the way. 16-time world champion, not day in and day out in the same company the way that Chris Jericho does it. He traveled around all over the States, all over Canada, defending those titles. You can't not vote for him.
So I actually went the other way. I might be the only single vote for Chris Jericho. Either way, Ric Flair advances, but I'm going to say this. Yeah, exactly. Shawn, who's going to be your pick?
Ric Flair. Just the fact that he has had such longevity, survived that plane crash, dropped the weight, became the jet flying, limousine riding, 16-time world champion, and still relevant today, even if he's showing up at the Performance Center at age 72 with COVID going on. Crazy, but he's still relevant today, and longevity, it has to be Ric Flair.
All right, down to the final match in the semifinals here. We got Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on Bret the Hitman Hart. Ryan, it's up to you. Your first pick.
I mean, I got to go with Bret Hart in this one. It's Bret Hart in terms of being a world champion, held it with a lot more grace outside of the Montreal Screwjob incident. I mean, if we don't look at that entire incident at all, then it's still Bret Hart.
Clarence?
Even if you do look at the Montreal Screwjob and all that stuff, all the accolades and all that, it's got to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. I have been an Austin fan since I was a wee lad, shaving my head with a Bic razor and getting cuts everywhere. When he won that belt against Shawn Michaels with Mike Tyson, everything changed. The whole industry changed with it. I can't think of the time when Bret Hart had that.
So we got 1-1 right now. Steven, you could be the tiebreaker depending on where Shawn goes. And I know where he's going with this, but I'm going Bret Hart. Main reason for it, the fact is the way he carried that championship, the matches he presented while he was champion. You understand, there was a guy that put on basically a 5-star match against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 12. Also could take guys like The Undertaker, big men like Mabel, for example, and last a match with them without getting hurt. So anyways, to me, when he won that first championship against Ric Flair, way down to his final championship, the fact is all those matches in between meant more than Steve Austin's matches meant. The fact is, Steve Austin, without him, WWE would not exist. Merch sales, there's no way in the friggin' world the two compare. But the fact is, as champion, the way he carried himself as a champion, I got to go Bret Hart. So 2-1, Shawn, who's up?
Yeah, well, here's my problem, though. Bret Hart won his first world title unceremoniously on a house show in Saskatoon, but it might have been recorded for Coliseum home video, but it didn't have any big hype and build up to get that title the first time. His greatest time was getting his match with Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. And even some of the other world titles that he had were very short-lived. He had to be served on a silver platter to WCW for them to do anything with him when the screw job happened. And
do anything.
The WCW didn't take that ball and run with it. And Vince was right when he said that they wouldn't know what to do with a Bret Hart during Wrestling with Shadows. Got handed built-in storyline and everything. Bret didn't push for things. Austin built himself up from being Stunning Steve Austin, doing the Hollywood Blondes, getting too good at that team with Bryan to be broken up because, they were getting over too much, then getting fired by FedEx, making his way over to WWE. Great circumstances of getting Hunter in trouble with the curtain call that he was able to step in and do that Austin 316 after winning the King of the Ring, and the sky was the limits for him afterwards. If it weren't for it being dropped on his head, unfortunately, at SummerSlam 97, who knows where he would have gone. But he did have a lot of title runs. He made WWE popular again and was one of the main factors in winning the war against WCW. I have to go with Austin.
Steven, you're the tiebreaker.
Well, this wasn't even hard for me. My favorite wrestler and my non-favorite wrestler. And just looking at the World Championships, I'm going the best there was, or the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Bret the Hitman Hart. You can't compete against Bret Hart. His title reigns were too many in two companies, too long. It's Bret Hart.
All right, so this will be interesting because it's fantasy warfare, but fact is, main event finals now, we've got Ric Flair taking on Bret Hart, and we were just talking about, Shawn, you were talking about the Straight to Coliseum home video. I think that probably is what it was, but fact is this, Ric Flair was on his way out. They needed a transitional champion, so they give it to Bret Hart in Canada, Saskatoon of all places. But now, we got Bret Hart, Ric Flair fantasy warfare matchup to decide the winner. And it looks like, who did we start with last time? Ryan, we started with last time, so Ryan's going to be final vote this time. So, Clarence, you are up. Bret Hart, Ric Flair.
I got to go with Ric Flair. Just as an FU to the man up in the corner there. The best there is, the best there was, probably the best there ever will be in ring, Ric Flair.
Wow, there's a catch. So I'm going to say the I can't even say limousine riding because it'd be horse riding with Bret Hart. But fact is I got to go Bret Hart. So 1-1 already. Reason for is everything I said. But fact is, technical wrestler wise, Bret Hart was a better wrestler than Ric Flair was in the ring. Ric Flair could sell like there was no tomorrow. Don West style there, Shawn. But fact is, Bret Hart, So 1-1, you're up.
Well, you pointed out a interesting word when you started describing this matchup. Bret Hart was a transitional champion because Ric Flair was leaving. Unceremonious build to his first title. His title winning it off Diesel was transitional again to get it to Shawn Michaels. Where was Bret Hart's big run really on that? You got screwed over with the whole Hogan thing coming back at 93. And didn't get his match at 93 SummerSlam like Bret claims that it was going to happen. Ric Flair could go Broadway multiple times a week. 16 times world champion. The Nature Boy is getting my vote.
All right, Steven, 2-1 Nature Boy.
Well, these two are probably my top two favorite. There's one who I followed, was probably one of the first people I seen. He's going to get my vote, and he's the winner. Nature Boy Ric Flair. You can't compete against the Nature Boy when it comes to greatest world champions. I love Bret Hart, but his resume just doesn't stand against Ric Flair.
Well, there we go. So Ric Flair is the actual winner. Ryan, curious your thoughts. Who are we going to pick?
I was going to go with Ric Flair as well. I mean, if you look at just who's more celebrated as a champion, it's Ric Flair. I mean, Bret Hart, sure, he is remembered for his prestigious career and everything he had done, but Ric Flair is far more celebrated as a champion, and yeah, definitely Ric Flair.
All right.
Can we get a woo from everybody? Not you, Chris.
Woo!
Woo!
I would play music, but Chris is always afraid of me getting us kicked off.
Well, especially right now because we're live on YouTube, so forget about that. But let me see. Shawn, Steven, your thoughts on the tournament as a whole, because you've been part of it since day one, and then we'll get Ryan and Clarence's thoughts as well as any more plugs that you guys want to do.
Sorry, go ahead.
I actually enjoyed the tournament. The fun part was finding out which ones we were going to put in as contenders, because 64, there's definitely way more champions out there than what we included. But we tried to run the gambit between all the promotions, all decades, and we're going to be trying that again soon. But yeah, just from where we started Fantasy Warfare tournament, of more of who we liked and everything, this one made us more legitimate by doing research on Wikipedia and finding out who had a better resume against the person they were against, instead of just putting my favorite versus my least favorite. So I enjoyed doing that, and I look forward to us doing more of it. There's an announcement coming up soon, I think, probably. But Steven?
I mean, it was interesting. If people out there could see our Facebook chat for this, would be some interesting comment. I mean, it was a lot of research. I mean, an hour and a half to 2 hour show, add another hour to 2 hours of research and looking at everyone's career, because there'd be names that I may not have known, or they were old. So you're trying to like figure out who they were wrestling. I mean, I think one of our next big, am I allowed to make that announcement, Chris, or no?
We'll do it momentarily here, but
okay. I just think it was very. I mean, I think it was fun. I think I think I can speak for all three of us. It was enjoyable. I don't know about Clarence's 2 hour marathon with us, but.
And we had Jonesy with us for a couple of the episodes.
Yeah. I mean, a good thing is it was something, it was outside of doing the news that we do on TNT and everything else. It was somewhat fresh and everything else. It gives us a chance to try something new, just have some fun, be wrestling fans, you know what I mean? Ryan, now your concept of your show is interesting, because you have gone through marathons with Carter Mason, as well as you had a great interview with, and pardon me for forgetting his name, but the promoter for Barry Wrestling. Is that right?
Yeah, Sean Gibson. It's been quite interesting the year we've had, because I'm on a country music station that plays in Sarnia. So for the majority, I'm listened to by non-wrestling fans in an attempt to get people to watch wrestling. So a lot of my interviews have been, not for the average wrestling fan, but lately, like he said, I've been able to do that watch along with Carter Mason. I'm going to be doing a lot more live interviews as well moving forward. Whatever you guys got cooking up, I'm very interested to try and jump in on that as well, because it sounds like these tournaments have been a lot of fun and a hell of a lot of research. You guys really know your shit.
So what can we expect from some of your podcasts? Any names that you can mention?
Right now, I got Shiloh Polly coming up. So obviously you guys know Shiloh. She's going to be on this coming Sunday's episode. And then I'm going to be having another one with Sean Gibson, who's going to be airing on not this Sunday, but next Sunday. So
there we go, guy. Ryan Knight, Knights of the Squared Circle. You can see all his social media links down below. Ryan Knight at knightsofthesquaredcircle.com is the best way to get in touch with him. Clarence, what are you doing to keep busy right now? Because I know Midwestern's on hiatus.
Honestly, not a whole lot. I just undergone some back surgery, so I haven't been able to do a whole lot. Just get slowly transitioning back into work. Hopefully, fix my webcam a bit, and But yeah, I haven't been doing a lot. Just chilling at home with the air conditioning blowing and the girlfriend, and just having fun.
Yeah, so that rolling screen on Clarence is not a special effect here by TNT. That's all his own doing over there.
Yeah.
Hold on, Clarence. What type of business do you own again?
A wrestling promotion.
He's on this. He
I'd
didn't lie to
invite you in for an interview, Clarence, if you've got the proper technology that we could set it up.
If I sell it to you, then it works fine. It's like a mechanic and their piece of junk car that they always drive it. It's exactly what it is.
Well, you know what? We always get the honesty from Clarence here. Someone just happened with my light. But anyway, guys, just gonna have Ryan and Clarence just sign off just for a sec. So I'm just gonna put you guys in queue. I'll bring you back just momentarily here. So, guys, and we've still got Clarence's name up here, but what we're going to do right now is, and Steven, I'm going to leave this to you because you wanted to make the announcement, but I'm going to throw this up first because Shawn had done this up just, I think, yesterday, and he's pretty quick at doing these videos, so I'll tell you this, and Steven, I think, has got 7 minutes left, so I'm going to play this video. Hopefully he's back by the time it happens, so... Shawn, you had produced this one as well, so I'm gonna do this. Shawn, I'll let you talk about it right after this, and then Steven will get you to talk about the announcement. I know we got a couple minutes, so just keep your panties on over there.
Time to get it on. Heads or tails doesn't matter. We live the game we choose. With the lightning and the thunder, and we refuse to lose.
It's on a podcast. Quiet for a second.
The joys of live video. So Shawn, we'll get you quickly to talk about this first. So Shawn had put that video together yesterday. So yeah, you'll see the next one that we are doing is the greatest world champions, Big Man. I'm gonna forget about doing editing during the live show. Anyways, we are episode 26. I know that for sure. Shawn, your thoughts on the greatest big men tournament coming up for next week?
It's going to be a interesting mix. We have fat guys, tall guys, agile fat guys, agile tall guys, lumbering tall and fat guys. Like everybody's all over the place. A lot of gold floating around out there as well with these guys. So we'll see who comes out as the greatest big man of at least the 16 in our regular format.
And then we will probably have one more after that. I think we did discuss, but
there's
two more.
There's 3 between this one and the announcement I'm about to make.
All right, so 3 in between. Here you go, Steven.
It's the greatest world tag team champions.
And format style, what are we doing with this?
It's gonna be 64, same format for the greatest world champion. So it'll be 4 weeks. Then we'll do live, just like you just saw, of the final 4 to crown the greatest world tag team champions.
Yeah, and all 64 tag teams have been announced, and they have been bracketed off, and some unique matches taking place.
I'll give everyone my first choice, and here's a shocker. They were managed by Jim Cornette, the Midnight Express.
All right, very good. So yeah, so you'll see greatest world champions, tag team champions coming up in the month of August. Steven is out of here tonight. So
I gotta go watch Canada's Drag Race. Sorry guys, bye.
Oh geez, here we go with that again.
See you next week.
All right, see ya.
We'll figure it out. Bye.
So there you go, guys. That's our big announcement for the next big tournament that we're going to do over 4 weeks. I was looking at the list today because I'm working on the video, and it's like some of the tag teams that you would expect to advance and be maybe in the final 4 might not even make it just in their format that we did with our world champion one. So
I'm looking forward to the big man.
The greatest big man?
Yeah. Like you guys got like Haystacks, like all those guys in it. And
yeah, there's
Haystacks, Vader,
Gorilla
Andre,
Monsoon, yeah, so a lot of old school names. Clarence, let me ask you this. So just briefly, who is your favorite big man in wrestling as well as your favorite tag team ever?
My favorite tag team ever? Oh wow. That I'll circle back to that one. Favorite big man? I was a big Gorilla Monsoon mark. Like it was way before my time. But I could watch his matches all day. Big Boss Man. I wasn't a big fan of Vader. I didn't mind him. He could do that crazy moonsault, half moonsault. Taker, of course. Giant Gonzalez. He wasn't one of my favorites. I'm just throwing it
And
out there.
that's why he didn't make it.
He's not even in it.
No, he was on the cusp, I think.
He's a big man. That means you got to bump it up to like 32.
Yeah, well, I mean, try to come up with 15 more than that would kind of be difficult. We'll come back to you on the tag teams. Ryan, you still with us? We can see you there.
Yep.
Who's your favorite big man in wrestling as well as tag team?
Favorite big man, I'd have to go with Kane. Just being, that's who I grew up watching and loving. He's hands down one of those guys that can always move. You can always rely on him. So it's got to be Kane for me. Favorite tag team is easily Edge and Christian. Personally, I love that team. They're my favorite team. It's Edge and Christian.
All right, Clarence.
Oh,
Name two or three then, if you can't name just one.
I did like Owen Hart and Coco Beware.
High energy.
Frankie never always came out, which was always disappointing. But the Hart Foundation, any tag team that you put in the Hart Foundation, either Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Owen Hart or Davey Boy Smith, any of those, they were always great. The Rock and Sock Connection, they were one of the greatest.
It's interesting you go from high energy to the Rock and Sock Connection.
Hey, you got to hit all genres, right?
Well, at least two of your tag teams are in the 64.
You're telling me Coco Beware and Owen Hart are not in this?
They had to win tag team titles.
The Rockers aren't in it then either, eh?
The Midnight Rockers are.
No, the Rockers.
No,
Same people.
The Rockers. Well, no, I mean, never mind. Vince got a hold of these guys, and it was a complete different contrast between the two. It's like, think of it, the Road Warriors versus Legion of Doom. You can't compare those two. It's always going to be Road Warriors.
But which Road Warriors? Like, which Legion of Doom? Like, Heidenreich?
No, I'm talking AWA, NWA Road Warriors. Not when they went to the Puppet Master there. So,
no. Literally the Puppet Master. Didn't he used to come out with a little puppet? Yeah.
Yeah, those are the days to be forgotten. But Shawn, we'll let you sign off with this. So, Scumbags of Wrestling, # We Are Scumbags /groups /Scumbags of Wrestling on Facebook. Shawn, what are you doing to keep busy? Because I know two of your shows are still on hiatus, but you've got Fantasy Warfare Tournament. How's the website coming?
Slowly. I just need to sit and do stuff and figure out how to keep it fresh. Obviously, I'm better on Facebook for getting things out with that. I took a week off with the podcast, with being on vacation with the wife, and just spending time that way. There wasn't much news, so nobody else got hit with COVID or sexual harassment, so it's all good. Just show reviews. So I took a week off and looking to bounce back with review of FyterFest and Great American Bash both weeks on this next episode.
All right. And
you're selling shirts.
Yeah, how the shirt and poster sales going?
A little slow at the moment. A lot of people grab them early. You have to get Ryan his, so we're going to arrange figuring out delivery and doing that. But yeah, so I think tomorrow is Steven's birthday. So if anybody is on Steven's wrestling journey, wish him a happy birthday. He's got some appointments coming up as well. So we're selling shirts. Clarence just had the poster up in front of him. I believe your shirt is behind you on the wall. So yeah, $30 shirt, $15 posters, and going to a great cause with Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, like the ad at the front of the show had.
So Ryan, you said you're getting an interview coming up with Shiloh.
Yes.
Has that been recorded yet or no?
Yeah, we recorded that last Friday.
I was going to say, Shawn, what you do is talk to Shiloh beforehand, get her to wear that Scumbags shirt on his show, and then that will heighten up your sales right there.
Well, she did have a quite the ad on Instagram.
Yeah, so
I'm pretty sure we do talk about it in the interview too. We gave you a plug in there.
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
there we go. All we need is wrestling shows to come back. You'll be able to sell them like hotcakes, no problem at all.
Exactly.
But again, so Shawn, with your Scumbags of Wrestling, I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but guys, go to cwnonline.ca, go to the exclusive section. You'll see interviews popping up that have done way back in the past, 2006 with Steve Carino, Daryl Sharma, who's now used to be known as the Hornet, Kevin and Bennett Experience, guys like that. More interviews coming up to there as well. You'll see every episode of the Sharpshooter podcast on there, so all 13 episodes have been uploaded. I've taken also the liberty to take trying to anyways all of these Scumbags of Wrestling podcasts and put them up on that page, so you'll have all 111 at this point.
111.
Yeah, so you'll be able to go to one central point to be able to check out all of that as well. But guys, it's been great. Clarence, thanks for doing the Fantasy Warfare tournament now twice. Ryan, thanks for doing it tonight. Can't wait to see the interview with Shiloh and everything that you've got coming up. Shawn, like I said, work on your website, will you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm also putting out the invitation to both Ryan and Clarence to join us either on our next one, which is Big Men, or during the tag team tournament. So we'll talk off air and figure that out.
Yeah,
would love to be a part of that. Thank you guys so much for having me on tonight. This was a lot of fun. Lots of fun.
The world champion, it was so much fun. It is some research for Shawn to do. But I just go with my gut. I go with the guys that stand out. But the big man one, that one's going to be pretty sick, and the greatest tag team. I mean, Shelton Benjamin all the way.
Yeah, so guys, that is coming up. So next week will be Greatest Big Men on YouTube, followed up by, I think we got Cruiserweights coming up. There's one I'm forgetting right now, and then basically in the month of August, Greatest Announcers, and then basically in the month of August, you'll see the 64 bracket of tag teams. Clarence of Midwestern Wrestling, Ryan Knight of the Knights of the Squared Circle. Anything you guys want to say before we sign off?
Again, open invitation if you guys ever want to come and chat on the show for Knights of the Squared Circle, and I'm looking forward to coming back and hanging out, talking the greatest big men and greatest tag teams. And
Ryan, what's the best way for fans and people to get in touch with you?
So you can go to our Facebook page, Knights of the Squared Circle. I'm on Instagram. It's or just direct message me if you guys have any questions or comments you want on the show.
And Clarence, how about you? What's the best way fans of Midwestern Wrestling or yourself to get in touch with you?
Facebook's usually the best way, Midwestern Wrestling on Facebook. Instagram is Midwest 2019, I think. You guys keep putting me on the spot. But yeah, just same as Ryan, just DM us and we'll get back to you nice and promptly. Thanks so much for having me on, eh? It's been a blast. I'll fix my camera and we'll do it all over again.
All right, so it's been a pleasure, guys. So until next week, we'll see everybody then. Thanks to Ryan, Clarence, Steven, Shawn, and Chris Maloney signing off. So see you again next week, guys.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.